what's going on YouTube? It's halftime during the playoffs, so I figured instead of sitting here being bored, let's have a little fun. Let's do a little something, something. So we're gonna do a little something, something, and I figure instead of doing a knife review and a little bit of time and not having enough time to get something going, I figure why not just do a fun review, something that we never get to do, something just you and me just having a little chit chat about opinions. And today's opinion is going to be on rock and roll. So rock, metal type stuff like that, classic, modern, it doesn't matter. Don't forget to rock your Morty. So here's what I'm going to do. I wanted to do a video of my top 10 different rockers. That means my top 10 bassists of all time, my top 10 lead guitarists, my top 10 drummers, my top 10 vocalists, and my top 10 bands. Now, when I say my top 10, that doesn't mean necessarily that that's the greatest top 10 ever, because yours might be a lot different than mine. But this is mine. So you're going to listen and go, oh, you're stupid. Oh, you missed The Who and Pink Floyd. And blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get it. They're in my top 10 too. But the problem is I have like 1 through 9, and then I have like 30 10s. So forgive me. All right, so if mine's different than yours, so be it. But what you should do is comment down below on any different ones you have. You say, oh, you guys, you got this guy, you like this guy, this is who I love. I love it all, man. So literally, I'm not going to listen to yours or see yours written down and go, oh, you're an idiot. No, I'm not going to do that. Yes, I will. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the bassists, right? Top 10 bassists, in my opinion, who I love and who I got to look at and respond to, and my screen went black just as I started saying, let's get this done. Here we go. So my top 10 bassists, we're going to start with The Who, and we're going to start with John Entwistle. This dude is literally, of all the ones I say, I'm not necessarily saying it's the greatest. No, this guy is the greatest bassist to ever play. All right, let's just get that one right out of the way. John Entwistle is the best bassist ever. Moving on from there, I have Led Zeppelin. I have John Paul Jones, who, this dude was such a badass that he would play keyboard with his hands while playing bass with his feet. Oh, yeah, he was that badass. So John Paul Jones is my number 2. My number 3 is Red Hot Chili Peppers' Flea. Gosh, you gotta love Flea. The bald head, crazy, zany moves. He was all over the place. Love Flea. One of the greatest bands of all time, Rush. If you're going to listen to a bassist, you got to listen to Geddy Lee. Geddy Lee was phenomenal. Let's go from there. We're going to hit Les Claypool. Now, here's a name that a lot of you guys won't know. Les Claypool was with a smaller band called Oysterhead. He played with Primus, and he was one of those guys that other bassists looked up to. Like, bassists that followed this dude. He's just really, really good. Now we're getting to Cliff Burton. Y'all know him. Metallica. Those bass lines. It's Metallica. Enough said. Let's go to Roger Waters, Pink Floyd. Another phenomenal bassist. Off the charts bassist. And then we'll go to Jaco Pastorius, right? I don't even know if Pastorius, I think that's how you pronounce his name, but this is another one of those guys that played for a million bands. This guy was everywhere, and you'd hear bands like The Weather Report, CC Riders, ones that you've never heard of, and then you'd say, oh, Herbie Hancock, yeah, I've heard of him. This guy played with everybody because everybody wanted him. It wasn't that he couldn't find a job. It's the fact that this guy was just wanted all over the place. He never played for those giant major bands, but the giant major band bassists followed this guy. He was awesome. Now let's go to one of my personal favorites, Steve Harris. Gosh, Iron Maiden. When you hear Iron Maiden and you're thinking all that you're thinking of the drums, you're thinking of the guitar, and you're thinking all this. You're not really always concentrating on the bass, but if you listen to the bass lines with Iron Maiden, ooh, Nelly. All right. And my last bassist out of my top 10 bassists who I would pick, this is like picking a basketball squad, right? Is Billy Sheehan. This dude, he toured with David Lee Roth and known for his work with Mr. Big, and it's great. And check this out, there's a guy who I love as a bassist, and I would probably put right around this section. Whose name is, his name is JC, Jason Cromwell. This dude, after the split with Mr. Big, and Mr. Big split into basically like, I think, two different bands, Eric Martin's Mr. Big, he used Jason Cornwell, he used JC as a bassist, and I tool around with a bass. I don't play bass. I don't really play anything. I just tool around. But the reason I do is because of JC. Watching him play, this dude looked like, he was just absolutely rock and roll. He played bass like a lead guitar. Dude lit it up. Love him. So let's go into drummers. And by far and away, this isn't, like a shallow opinion. John Bonham, Led Zeppelin, greatest drummer ever. Guy was just stone. Next, another time we're running to Rush, and we're gonna say Neil Peart. Neil Peart, banging drummer. Now Bill Bruford from Yes. Yeah, phenomenal drummer. And then we go right to another phenomenal band, The Who, with Keith Moon. If you don't know his name, you don't know rock and roll. Ian Pace from Deep Purple, another guy who I would totally pick in a heartbeat. Here's a name that I'm going to say, and you guys are going to think, wait, isn't he a singer-songwriter? Phil Collins? Yeah, but remember when he started with Genesis, he was the drummer, and he was amazing. So then we're going to go to Cream. This is probably my smoothest drummer. I'm talking smooth drum beats. Ginger Baker, this guy was crazy fluid. Gotta love that. Moving on to one of the biggest bands of all time, the Rolling Stones. And if you don't know who Charlie Watts is, turn the page. He's right there. He's in the book. And again, kicking back to Metallica with Lars Ulrich. Lars freaking Ulrich. Now, my number 10 is a guy that some of you might not know. I sure do. I love this guy. I hang out with him all the time. He's one of my besties, man. This is my bro, Derek Pontier. He was with Great White. He's done a ton of all-star band stuff. He gets picked up. He even got picked up by a country band to do some recording. He does. They brought him in for like this Elvis tribute thing. That the guy is just an insane, capable drummer. He's like an around-the-world drummer. Can hit anything. It doesn't matter what genre of music. Derek Pontier hits it all. Guy is a beast. So let's move to, well, place you got to move to. You got to move to that lead guitar. And again, I got to say, Zeppelin, Jimmy Page takes the top spot. Guy is the greatest. Everybody tries to mimic him, but no one really can. Even though you might listen to somebody play some Jimmy Page, you go, oh my God, that's perfect. It's not perfect. There's something missing. Jimmy Page was so fast, cameras couldn't even pick him up when he was doing certain things. You'd have to hit super slow motion, and you're still missing little nuances in his finger movement. The best. Outside of that, and Jimmy Page, remember he started with the Yardbirds. He was Coverdale and Page, but Led Zeppelin. We all know Jimmy Page is Led Zeppelin. Page and Plant. Let's see. So then we're going to Jimi Hendrix. Like I was saying, Jimi Hendrix played with Little Richard. He toured with a bunch of other people, but he was known mainly for Jimmy Hendrix, his own band, right? And this dude, Jimi Hendrix. This is how amazing the guy was. He was illiterate, right? Couldn't write and read. So what he would do is he would play stuff and record it. Right, even vocals, because he was, and this is what makes him so special. Is I think he might be my only lead guitarist who is, well, maybe not the only one, but being a lead guitarist who's actually the vocalist. I mean, that's two things you have to concentrate on, and that can get tough. And to be one of the greatest ever doing two at one is pretty good. But I mean, this guy, he'd play behind his head. He would record himself, and that's how he would learn his own music. He'd record it and then say, "Oh, good," and then replay it or memorize the words and things like that. Hendrix was a beast. So then, obviously, the king of the solo. Lost it. Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen, who played for, what did he play for? Oh yeah, Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen is still to this day one of the best. The guy is super string man. Gotta love Eddie Van Halen. Next is my smoothest guitarist, and this guy, from blues to rock to whatever, especially them blues, man, Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton, remember, he played with Cream, and it was smooth. Then he did his own rock stuff, and it was smooth. He did his own blues album, and it was smooth. Eric Clapton, the man. Stevie Ray Vaughan, God bless his soul. He had his own band, Stevie Ray Vaughan. If he didn't die in a helicopter crash, Stevie Ray Vaughan would still be selling out. Still be selling out. I mean, not selling out like you're a sellout, but selling out as in like everybody is paying to go see him play because he's that good. So after Stevie Ray Vaughan, I have the man in the top hat. We got Slash, right? He had his own band, but we all know he was Guns N' Roses frontman. I mean, lead guitarist. And Slash is just, I mean, hello, Slash Wunderhaut. So after Slash, Steve Vai. Steve Vai. Here's a band that everybody knows, especially you younger folk. Frank Zappa. Steve Vai played with Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa was awesome. Is he going to be ever known as one of the greatest top 10 bands in the world? No, but he's in the top 100. Frank Zappa was great, but what really made a lot of his stuff stand out was the work from Steve Vai. That dude is awesome, and it's VAI, y'all, if you want to look him up. So now we go from Steve Vai to, let's say, I don't know, one of the most famous names, and this is another one where, if he didn't pass along, this guy would still be rocking out places everywhere. Randy Rhoads. Randy Rhoads, everybody knows him from Black Sabbath. Randy Rhoads played with Ozzy, blah, blah. Not a lot of people remember he played with Quiet Riot. But Randy Rhoads is just one of those guys that stoked a lot of other people to play, and I got one of those guys on my list. But after Randy Rhoads, I gotta say Dave Murray, another Iron Maiden guy, and they use 3 six-stringers, man. They got 3 lead guitarists. And Dave Murray has just been there, I think, since like the 1700s playing with these guys. And he's sick. If you've ever listened to the instrumentals in Iron Maiden, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Last on the list is another one of these names that you might not know unless you go to NAMM, in Vegas or California. You go to these big music shows and whatnot, the big ones. You'll see Scott LaFlamme just doing demos for different companies' stuff and bringing in and incorporating his own madness. And the guy is just awesome. Remember I was talking about Randy Rhoads, Scott LaFlamme in the 80s became the youngest Randy Rhoads impersonator probably out there traveling and sporting his goods. Kid was just a monster. I've known him since he was a baby. The guy's one of my best friends. He's on my ankle. Literally, he's tattooed on my ankle. But this dude, he was the front man. I mean, not the front man. I keep saying front man. He was the lead guitarist for Bang Tango, toured the world. Randy Rhoads Experience. He was the guitarist for Randy Rhoads Experience. He was Randy Rhoads. He went to Randy Rhoads' house and met his mother. But then he does a bunch of all-star band stuff, and it's his touring around and doing guest stuff that you'll see him doing interviews all over the place. The guy's very, very big. He's the only guy I know that you can pick any B-side song from any song in the 80s and he'll just know it. And if you say, hey man, I want to learn how to play this, Scotty will say, okay, hold on, I don't know that song. He'll listen to it for a second and go, okay, now I can teach you the song. Blows me away every time, man, every time. All right, so let's go to vocalists. This is the front man. Now I'm getting it right. When you talk about a band, you talk about the guy making all the noise, right? And it doesn't get any better. And these are my best vocalists as far as range, quality, difficulty in the voice, and how much they pump up a crowd, how much excitement they put out. This isn't just, okay, this is a list of great people because other people also think they're great. No, I want a list of people that turn corners, that really light it up, that get onto a stage and make people say, I'm going to listen to them for the next 40 years. Number 1, Robert Plant, Led Zeppelin, of course. Number 2, Queen's Freddie Mercury. This guy was so versatile in his tones and in his voice. Just put so many other people to shame. Next, there's one you're not going to expect I'm about to say, but Janis Joplin. Holy crap. You just listen to her sing Mercedes-Benz and you'll know what I'm talking about. And that was just goofing off. She did that. Did it one take, man. Gotta love Janis Joplin. Outside of that, we have Ozzy Osbourne. This guy, you don't understand a damn thing he says when he talks, but man, put him on the mic and Ozzy is on fire. Gotta love some Ozzy. So, after Ozzy Osbourne, I have Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. I mean, nobody lit up the radio like Axl Rose did in the 90s. Oh my goodness. Off the charts. So then, getting back to Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson, who I think is probably got the best voice control and lung control ever. I mean, this dude is just insane. He holds those high vibratos for like 68 minutes. Guy's insane, man. Gotta love Bruce. Gosh, and you go to a concert, pooh, man, you just saw a concert. Let's see. James Hetfield, Metallica. I mean, sleep with one eye open. This guy is awesome. His tones, his voice, and he has so much control and he can do all these different things. He changes his style with different albums. I mean, just crazy. And if Michael Jackson sang rock, he did the same thing. Every album, he changed a different style. I would have Michael Jackson if he was a rock star instead of a pop star. He would be on top of this list. But getting next, here's one that a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy to say because you might only be familiar with a couple songs from the band, even though if you listen to the band, you'd be like, holy crap, they have some good music. Dee Snider. He was the lead singer for Twisted Sister, and everybody's going to remember, I Want to Rock, and things like that. But if you listen to some of their earlier stuff, if you listen to some of their later, if you listen to there's an album called Twisted Sister Come Out and Play, and if you listen to that album, every song is a radio type song. I mean, his voice is just amazing, man. It's got that raspy, nasty, awesome, just crazy cool voice. So Twisted Sister, I mean, it's one of those voices like Rod Stewart. It's like one of those 1 in a million voices. They're just awesome. But Rod Stewart's not my number 10, even though he should be close. My number 10 as far as rock star voice, Bob Seger. You remember from the Bob Seger's Silver Bullet Band. That was his band. Bob Seger's voice was just cool. You know what I mean? He's just got a really cool rock and roll voice. Like, you think rock and roll, you can hear Bob Seger in your head. That's the kind of voice he had. So that's my number 10 right there as far as voices that I would like to have jump on my rock band to start it out. Sorry, Steve Perry. Sorry. Let's get into my top 10 bands. This is the last 10, man. This is the last 10 that I want to see some of you guys. Write down your 10s, man. Write them down. Let me know what you think. If 8 of your 10 are the same as 8 of mine, don't write them all down. Just say, well, I have 2 different ones. Okay? And let me know. Number 1, all time, greatest band ever, Led Zeppelin. Just Led Zeppelin. And I know, without a doubt in my mind, some of you guys are going to be going, where's the Beatles? Where's the Who? Where's Pink Floyd? They're not in my top 10. I'm going to lay, they all belong there. But the Beatles were not as rock in the early days, and songs like I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand probably wouldn't stand up today. So things like that. And Johnny was a bird. He was a dog. He was a bird dog. Things like that. It's just that sound, man. There's some lyrics that just wouldn't pass on, and some sounds that wouldn't pass on. John Lennon's later stuff, I think, was ahead of its time. But as far as early Beatles, I can't really consider that true rock. And I know some of you guys are grinding your teeth at me. But so let's get back. Let's get back to my number 2 band all time, Metallica. And you got to remember that these are guys, I'm talking about concert seller outers. I'm talking about jillion album sales. I'm talking about every time they put out something new, it just tops the charts. I'm talking about crowd lighting up, stuff. Every time you go to a football game, a song from this band comes on. You know what I mean? It's like a sporting event. This is what they play to pump you up. Metallica is one of them. Next, of course, everywhere you go, you're going to hear the Trooper, Iron Maiden. They're just sick. And if you want to see a great concert nowadays, today and tomorrow, they're still touring. Iron Maiden puts on one of the greatest shows. I actually have. I went to one of their shows this year, or this past year, and I put up some footage of it. Check that out. Iron Maiden. Wow. Just wow. So outside of Iron Maiden, classics, the Rolling Stones. I mean, give me some of that brown sugar, baby. I'm telling you. Rolling Stones are a must when you're talking about all-time greatest bands. Mick Jagger with his goofy lips and his goofy strut. Gotta love him. Gotta love him. Mick Jagger's voice and the vocalist should be pretty up there too, but he's right around the bottom. All right, so you guys like that? I live in New England. All right, so after Rolling Stones. Sorry. Here we go. I was looking at something backwards. So after the Rolling Stones, I have Rob Zombie, and Rob Zombie. If you've never seen, he has more hits than you'd guess. If you're not a big Rob Zombie fan, if I started just playing songs, you'd go, oh yeah, I know that song. Oh yeah, oh that's Rob Zombie. Oh yeah, I know that song. He's just off the charts everywhere. But like Iron Maiden, Rob Zombie is one of those must-see bands. The top three concerts I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen a lot of shows. Iron Maiden, and this was just last year. Rob Zombie, wow, what year was that? I don't know. A few years back. And then, sorry. Rob Zombie was the best concert I've ever seen. The first time I seen Rob Zombie, off the charts. Then Iron Maiden this last year, off the charts. Then I saw Rob Zombie again last year. It wasn't as good as the first one, and I would put it right behind the Iron Maiden concert. But it was enough to be in my top 3 all time. Rob Zombie puts on a show. So, gotta say Rob Zombie. Another guy seen live numerous times, and a guy I've got to meet, and a guy who I think is just balls to the wall. I used to live right around the corner from him, Steven Tyler and Aerosmith. Aerosmith, man, talk about showman. I was watching Steven Tyler when he was 50 years old, still doing backflips in a trench coat. The guy was off the charts. Aerosmith, they know how to put on a show. These guys know how to light it up. And again, it's going to be another one of those bands where you go to a sporting event and the crowd needs to get pumped up. So what do they play? They're going to play some Aerosmith. Outside of Aerosmith, we got Guns N' Roses. And same thing. A pump up band, and I mean, they just owned the waves in the 90s. They just did. Every time you turned on a radio, something from Guns N' Roses was playing, and you weren't changing the channel. It's just the way it was. Outside of that, we have Black Sabbath. You got Ozzy. You're talking about just great shows that's going to get you excited to be there. Something dark, something just nasty that's going to hammer the music into you. Ozzy Osbourne is the shiznit. All right. So I have to keep Black Sabbath in there. And here's one where I mentioned a bunch of bands that weren't in here that could be, but here's one that is in my top, probably my top 5 concerts ever. Kiss. Man, watching Paul Stanley go up with the wire on his back and fly over the crowd. They bring him over everything. Kiss, man. whoo, they put on a show, and they have so many songs. Kiss just has so many songs that are just really good songs. And they are, with all the makeup and the outfits, I mean, they are epitome of rock and roll showmen. That's what they are. And here's my last 1 out of 10, and I'd already talked about it, and a lot of people don't know how good this band really is because you're only thinking of 2 or 3 songs, and that's it. You're just thinking of those radio songs. Twisted Sister. Twisted Sister was off the charts good. Just a great band. And this is where a lot of people are going to differ from me, and you're going to want to throw on a couple different names. Fine, do it. I don't care. It's good. Your opinion is your opinion. That's why we're different people, right? But as far as for me, I think Twisted Sister has got just one of the coolest sounds. If you don't know Twisted Sister, play their Come Out and Play album, man. Just go and just type in Twisted Sister's, top hits, and I guarantee you the first 3 hits are going to be ones that you go, wow, that's a really good band. But as far as just a complete album, Come Out and Play rocks. So that's it, man. That's my video tribute homage to rockers over time and who I feel I would make up my best band. So if I needed to build 10 bands, right, I would take the best from each one of those groups, and that would be a band. So, I mean, just can you imagine taking Jimi Hendrix, Neil Peart, John Paul Jones, Freddie Mercury, and playing, Metallica's stage? Crazy. It's just that kind of thing, man. So that would be my 10. That would be my 10 of all time of everything. Glad you guys stuck with me on this one. That was something different, and I would love to see opinions, man. I would love to see what you guys think, who you listen to. That would be great. So, Cowboy Bebop, I know you're in on this. I know you're in on this, man. So, guys, that's it. Football's back on. It's time for me to get to that way. So, I will see you next knife. I am Donnie B all day. And until next knife.